Out of all the chaos and promise of AI, there's this new role popping up. And honestly, it might be the most important job in tech that nobody's really talking about yet. So let's dive in and figure out what it is and why you really need to know about it.
Okay, so you know those videos you get totally lost in? The super satisfying ones? Where everything is transforming perfectly or fruit is being sliced just so? Yeah, they're hypnotic. But here's a thought. What if the real magic isn't what's in the video, but the secret behind how it was actually made?
What for one product manager, the whole thing started with this tiny little note in a YouTube description. It just said, made with N8N automation workflow. And that was the spark. That one little phrase kicked off this huge deep dive, turning a simple curiosity into a full-blown quest to see how AI could totally reinvent the way we work.
So, that's the journey we're going on today. We're going to start with that initial spark, then we'll define what might be the hottest new job in tech. After that, we'll follow a personal journey of discovery, explore this wild vision of agent swarms, and see how all this is shaking up entire industries. And of course, we'll wrap up with some real practical tips on how you can get started yourself.
And yeah, it all kicks off right here. Not in some fancy boardroom or a high-tech research lab, but with a YouTube video. It's amazing how a simple trigger like that can lead to such a massive professional quest.
And this is where the whole perspective just flips. The realization hits that this isn't just about making cool videos or finding some clever productivity hack for yourself. No, this is about something much, much bigger. It's about fundamentally redesigning how work actually gets done to create real, tangible business value with AI.
So this whole quest for improvement, it led to a pretty big realization. A brand new skill set, a completely new role was needed. And as it turns out, this wasn't just some random thought. He was definitely not alone in thinking this.
I mean, look, when the CEO of Zapier, a total giant in the automation world, says something like this, you really ought to pay attention. Wade Foster's post gave this new skill set a name, and more importantly, it signaled that there's this huge growing demand for people who can close that gap between AI's crazy potential and its actual practical use in the real world. So what does this person actually do? Well, this breakdown of their mission shows just how unique this role is. It's this wild mix of skills. You're part strategist, part rapid prototyper, part detective, and even part teacher. These folks don't just sit in a corner and code. They're out there, embedded with teams, watching how they work, finding the pain points, and then completely redesigning entire workflows from scratch.
And that right there, that's the absolute core of the problem they solve. Think about it. Pretty much every company out there sees the potential of AI, but they get stuck. They can't figure out how to turn those big, exciting ideas into actual working solutions. The AI automation engineer, they're the one who shows up and builds the bridge across that gap.
But, becoming one of these bridge builders, it's not like you just take a course and you're done. It's a journey. It's full of trial and error, a lot of frustration, and then these incredible aha moments. In fact, our guide here breaks his own journey down into 4 really clear phases.
So the path started with pure frustration, just struggling to get his head around the logic of the tools. Then you get that first taste of success, that first win, building a simple little agent for his Gmail calendar. The real light bulb moment, though, was what he calls the Planian moment. That's when he realized he could build a real business solution in a few hours that a whole team had planned to work on for months. But the thing that changed everything, that was a huge technological leap forward.
And this is that breakthrough, MCP servers. The best way to think about it is like a universal USB-C port that connects an AI directly to your software. So instead of clicking around in menus, you can just talk to it. For him, this was a mind-blowing shift. He could literally just describe a workflow to an AI like Claude, and it would go and build the automation for him. We're talking a massive, massive shortcut.
Okay, so once you have a tool that powerful, it leads to an even bigger vision, right? It's not just about automating one little process anymore. Suddenly the question becomes, what if swarms of AI agents, all collaborating, could run huge parts of an entire organization?
So he went and built something called an agentic RAG workflow. Don't worry too much about the name. The key idea you need to grab onto is multiple AI agents. Instead of trying to get one giant AI to do everything, you build a whole team of specialized AIs. Each one has a very specific job, and they all work together.
And he didn't just throw them together. He organized them into a hierarchy, just like a real-world team. You've got the receiver, who's kind of like the manager, figuring out what needs to be done and routing the tasks. Then there's the researcher who goes out and gathers all the info. The writer takes that research and crafts the response.
And finally, you have a quality controller who reviews everything before it goes out the door. The crazy part? They were literally communicating with each other to get the job done.
And that was the vision. This wasn't just a cool little experiment. It was a blueprint. It was a model for a future where complex work isn't just a series of handoffs between people, but is instead executed by a coordinated, efficient swarm of AI agents.
Okay, so swarms of AI agents, that sounds pretty sci-fi, right? What does it actually look like in the real world? Let's bring this whole vision down to earth with a super concrete example that shows you just how disruptive this can be.
Just take a look at this comparison. On the left, you've got the old way of creating marketing content. It's this slow, painful 7-step relay race, passed from person to person. Now look at the right, the new way. A manager fills out a single, simple form, and a supervisor AI agent takes over, coordinating a whole team of specialized AI agents to do everything else.
So, that old way, from start to finish, from the first briefing to the final approval, you're easily looking at a full week of work.
And the new way, the one powered by that AI swarm, that entire week gets crushed down to about 4 hours. That is not just a little improvement. That is a complete and total transformation of speed and scale. And this whole thing leads to a really powerful analogy for what's happening in the market right now. You've got the big established companies. They're like tankers. They're huge, they're powerful, but they are incredibly slow to change direction. They try to bolt AI onto their old clunky processes. But then you have the startups. They're the speedboats. They're small, they're agile, they can pivot in an instant. And now, with AI automation, these tiny little speedboats suddenly have the firepower of a tanker. They aren't just improving an old process, they're building brand new ways of working, from the ground up with AI at the core.
Okay, so this all feels pretty world-changing, doesn't it?
Well, the best part is you don't have to just sit on the sidelines and watch this happen. You can start building these kinds of superpowers for yourself, right now. Let's look at some really practical steps, inspired by the journey we've been following.
The most important piece of advice is this concept of Genchi Genbutsu, which basically means go and see for yourself. Don't just read about it, don't just watch videos, do it. Seriously, tonight, go create a free account on a tool like N8 or Zapier and just build something, anything. Use Claude to help you write a prompt for another AI. Start with a tiny personal win, but keep that big picture in mind. How could this scale? And super important, know when you're in over your head and need to call an expert.
And that really brings us to the final, most important question. Because this shift, it isn't coming, it's already happening. This AI automation revolution is here, right now. Those speedboats we talked about, they have already left the harbor. So you really have to ask yourself and ask your company, are you in the boat, building and moving forward, or are you just standing on the dock, watching it all sail away?